Okay, this video is for Bryan Ezawa. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Um, Basically, I have a video that I made, maybe last summer, which is about the essay by Jacques Derrida called Differance. It was this one here, which is in this volume, which is speech and phenomena, which basically has the rest of this here is pretty much a bunch of essays, which are his criticisms of Husserl's phenomenology as well as Husserl's philosophy of language. And what Bryan asked me, he commented on that video that I made maybe last July, and he asked me to kind of talk more about the temporalizing and the spacing, which kids out there yelling. Sorry, they're distracting. He asked me to talk more about the temporalizing and the spacing, where if you don't know anything about Jacques Derrida's philosophy and you're just kind of here like on a whim or something, or I have videos about this, and I have a video where I kind of go over the theme of what difference is and stuff like that. And I also have various other videos about Derrida's philosophy. But in this video, I want to kind of go or discuss a little bit about this quote that's kind of at the beginning of this essay that he talks about quite a lot in this essay in various different ways. The verb to differ seems to differ from itself. On the one hand, it indicates difference as distinction, inequality, or discernibility. On the other, it expresses the interposition of delay, the interval of a spacing and temporalizing that puts off until later what is presently denied, the possible that is presently impossible. We provisionally give the name difference to this sameness, which is not identical. Okay. Difference is, okay, first of all, we have, if I can, I'd like to write it out just to show you. And I know that many of you know, but I just kind of want to, I'm trying to, illustrate what his point was for making the word difference with having the word A, or the letter A in there instead of E, just like we spell in English and in French. And in French, the word difference is spelled with E's. There's no A in it. But in French, when you, here, I'm just gonna write down to show you. And this is part of the temporalizing and the spacing of difference and deferral, because difference and difference, which are basically two different things, and yet they're the same. Okay, see these two words at the bottom here? This one on the top, difference, it just looks like difference, but in French it's pronounced différence. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because I mean that's the way I've heard it. That's the way I've heard it pronounced, and I don't really know French. So this is pronounced différence, and this is also pronounced différence. But this one has the letter A in it to replace this E. Difference, the one with the A, is what the title of this essay is called. And this is to illustrate a sameness and difference concept. But the concept of difference with the A is a non-word, non-concept, which he says in this essay. And it's thought of as a method, and yet Derrida has not wanted to really call it that, but Christopher Norris, who is a writer about Derrida, would be inclined to call it a method, and I would too, because it's a method which is going to break down conceptual opposition. As I've given, the paper that I've written for my philosophy writing seminar last semester. That's basically, I kind of gave a example to kind of show this. Is like, we have the mind body problem, to where we have a materialist on this hand and a dualist in the other, and the dualist, who believes in a soul and a body, has reasons for sticking with that belief and that argument. So he's going to stay there, and he's going to, well, no, he's saying that the materialist is wrong for thinking that the person is only made up of one substance, and the materialist on the other hand, who believes that the person is made out of one substance, just matter, will hold his position and will not yield to the other ones. So they both are conceptually opposing beliefs, and neither of them are going to basically budge, and they're going to stay where they are, and they're going to say, no, you are wrong, because the truth is blah blah blah. The real meaning is blah blah blah. Various things in philosophy and science and all this other various disciplines. They're going to be like, well, no, there's meaning here, there's truth here, there's logos is the word that Derrida gives it. There's logos here. And Derrida says that that's logocentrism, which is saying that there's logos or a meaning or a transcendental signified or a truth somewhere. By giving your reasons why you think that materialism solves the mind-body problem. That's saying that you think that there's reality or truth or meaning in a certain thing. Same thing with the dualist, saying no, there's truth. There's truth. A dualist says that there's truth in the fact of, what they would say, a fact of there being only a soul and a body, and not just one matter or one substance. So what I'm trying to say here is that this is just one example of conceptually opposed beliefs. Is these two people in the materialist and the dualist in the mind-body problem. And what Derrida is saying in this essay, as in many other of his writings, is that deconstruction is the non-word, non-concept, non-method, but it's really a method of breaking down conceptual opposition. And it's often binary conceptual opposition, but I think, there's more than just two sides to every story, so I think we can break down the other ones too, because there's multiple sides, there's multiple variances of materialism, there's multiple variants of dualism and such. So, anyway, Differance. We have in Differance, the A version, this is the spearheading thing, which is the methodological thing, which is going to do that breaking down. It's going to do that breaking down of the conceptual oppositions. And Differance with the A breaks down to difference and deferral. Difference with the E is also pronounced difference. And what Bryan was asking was to talk about more about what he says in this essay, the temporalizing and the spacing. And in various other places in his work, in these essays here, he discusses, what is meant by the spacing of the difference, and they basically, difference and deferral both have temporalizing and spacing. You know, temporalizing and spacing is not restricted to just one of them, but difference. Okay, let's start with difference first and see how that and talk about how that relates to spacing. Deferral is more of a time word. It's having to do with time, and in this essay as well as in others, many of which are in here. The interposition of delay, the interval of a spacing and temporalizing that puts off until later what is presently denied, the possible that is presently impossible. But first, difference. In my essay, which I wrote for my seminar last year or last semester, the way I kind of discussed this difference is relation to what he says in here. It was the concept of sameness, but it's really the concept of sameness and difference. We have members of the set X, Y, and Z, right? Sets are just collections of things, basically. We have the members of the set X, Y, and Z. They are grouped into that set based on how they are similar. Basically, you know, then we have W also. So we have sameness of these things based upon how they are similar, and how that's why they're grouped into the set. And I forget kind of how it goes, but I will explain it better. I had the paper upstairs, and it was better on paper. And then W is a member, which is a item which is not a member of that set, and W is not put into that set because of his difference. So, but X, Y, and Z are same as to how they're collected. They're same. They're collected together in this set due to their similarity, their sameness. However, they also have difference. So what I'm getting at is that X, Y, and Z have sameness and difference. So we're finding sameness and difference in the same concept, in the same thing, in the same three objects, or in the same set, really. So it's, you know, we can just call it one set. W is not put into the set because of how W is viewed as different from X, Y, and Z. So the sameness of this set of the members X, Y, and Z is looked at as to their sameness because of how they're collected into the set, but they're looked at also to their difference based upon how other things are not put into that set. They're viewed as to their difference by way of how W is not put into that set. But difference has to do with space because of how we find sameness and difference in things. You know, like, and things have to do with space, of course. You know, I can put these books apart, you know, and I can understand them based upon how they are spaced from one another. So difference is related to space. Difference is also related to time, but it's more understood as related to space. And it's related to space because same thing. Like I'm sitting at a dining table here. So, and this also relates to the set. The same chairs are put at the table because of how the chairs are similar, and how other different chairs are not put there. But the point of this whole thing is to really see is that, and the whole point of deconstruction and the whole concept, the non-concept of difference, is that in space there is inherent difference where there is inherent sameness. And it's like the first thing he says is that the verb to differ, there's things that are identical still differ from the are still different. I identity or sameness and difference are two diametrically opposed concepts, and the point is to see how you can find in a certain object or set inherent difference and inherent sameness, and it's kind of like a little bit of a metaphor to show that, you know, like if we're having a little argument about the mind-body problem of philosophy of mind, in the position of materialism, there is not, they think that there's just reason to believe materialism. They think, well, because of this and this, we believe there's only one substance. But what they aren't understanding, according to Derrida, is that there's also reason to believe, in the same token, reasons to believe dualism. And same with dualism. Dualists think there's only reason to believe that there's a mind and a body, or a soul and a body. They think that there's reason to believe just that there's a soul and a body, and that's the bottom line. But what they don't realize is that in the same token, in the same thing, there's reason to believe materialism. And this is kind of just hard to talk about. So, Bryan, if this is not working for you, feel free to comment, and I will still comment. I will still comment and just discuss this, and if need be, I will make another video, which I hope will help you out. So difference has to do with space. Has to do with space. Has to do with spacing and spatiality. Difference does also have to do with time and arguments in general. And the word play, like it's from the French word jeu, is translated at its best into the word play. And in difference, play is the play of differences. They say that, if let's, we when we're deconstructing a argument, we will go from the originally and the majority accepted belief, marginalize that into the least accepted belief of a certain argument, and then redo it back to the other one, marginalize it again, and then we have it back and forth between conceptual opposites, never coming to any solidity of concepts, and never pointing to any logos or to any presence. So that's mostly the way that difference relates to space. Deferral, on the other hand, again, this can also in many ways relate to space, because he doesn't say in here that difference relates especially to spacing and only to spacing, nor does he say that deferral relates only to the temporalizing, but it's altogether this one whole thing in this play of differences after a deconstructive method has been done. Deferral in time, in one of the essays in here, he says, and he's arguing against one of Husserl's points in his phenomenology of internal time consciousness. He says that the present because we say that, well, this is the now, or this cup is present, or this pen is present, this book is present, this chair is present. All these things are present, thus this presence. He says in one of these essays that the present, the now, always will elude you and be unwieldy, and will always, as we try to grasp at the present or the now, it will always slip away. So that's also a way in which deferral relates to time and space. But deferral, in Husserl's phenomenology of internal time consciousness, Husserl says that there is a presence, and there is some level of presence to it. And in one of these essays, he kind of argues against that. But in my personal opinion, Husserl is not really going full out and saying presence is precedent. And I could talk about that for a while, and I have. What he says that the present is something that will always delay. The present, the now, will always delay forever. And as you try to grasp at it, you will never ever get it. You will never ever get it. And here he says there is it expresses the interprecipitation of delay, the interval of spacing and temporalizing that puts off until later what is presently denied, the possible that is presently impossible. Deferral is saying that the present defers constantly. It never will stop deferring. The present, whether it be present in time, present in space, because I can say, well, this book, this stuff is present, or the now, the tonal now, as Husserl would say, is present. But Derrida says no, it always delays. It will always delay, and you will never ever grasp it, ever. And I could talk about that many more times, because there's so much in here, in this book alone, that goes into that, and that's part of what the paper that I've written is about. But that's the way in which difference and deferral relate to temporality and spatiality, or the temporalizing and the spacing. Sometimes the difference and the sometimes defer correspond to the verb to differ. This correlation, however, is not simply one between act and object, cause and effect, or primordial and derived. Okay, let me see here. We provisionally give the name difference to this sameness, which is not identical. The sameness which is not identical, that alone is contradictory. So that works for this, because we don't want to have perfect solidity in our concepts. We don't want to have perfect grasping or perfect understanding in our concepts. So the fact that there's a sameness which is not identical works out. By the silent writing of its A, it has the desired advantage of referring to differing both as spacing and temporalizing, as the movement that structures in every dissociation. So, like I said there, the temporalizing and the spacing refer to difference as well as deferral. And I think that should be good enough. What else do I want to say? Yeah. And the reason why there's the A in difference, like I have here, the reason that is because these two things are the same, but they're the same word, and in French they sound the same. So they're same. They're the same word, but there's in the French pronunciation of this, there's a hidden difference there. There's a hidden difference between these two, and you will never know if he's saying this one or this one. You will never know because this sounds the same, but within sameness there is difference. So you can see how it's very difficult to pin down, difficult to wrap your head around, difficult to, just to kind of understand how this whole thing works, especially when he doesn't even call it a method. And honestly, if there's Brian, I hope I answered your question, and again, if I haven't, you can post comments below, and I will definitely respond. And if there's people out there who are huge experts on Derrida who think I've butchered something, then please comment below, because the reason I do these things is not only to help people who want some help on this, but for my own benefit as well, because from these videos I've learned a lot of things and have been able to understand things that I probably would have had a harder time getting my head around. So thank you.